Well, good morning. Today we're going to discuss power, a very, very exciting, very meaningful topic in my studies. It's where the interests that I found were science, particularly physics, and spirituality meet, represented to some degree. I mentioned before Nikola Tesla, but Albert Einstein, he's the one that famously came up with the simple formula E equals mc squared, where basically is saying energy, which is power, is equal to mass times the speed of light squared. And this describes two things for me. It's again our relationship with the timeless realm is key to our evolution into our third phase, the spiritual mind, in recognizing that there is a membrane that divides our space-time world from the timeless realm, and that membrane is light. Okay, and so this is why people, when they drop their body, when their consciousness expands out of the space-time limitation, always they experience light. When people have a brilliant idea, a stroke of genius, always they experience light. So as we come to understand and develop a relationship with power, we are also developing a relationship with light. In my early studies, I was given I think it was an audio tape series based on the book of Carolyn Mace, Sacred Anatomy. And I remember just being so fascinated with her description of our energy body and the description of the levels of power that are involved with this energy body. Okay, so subsequently I found a CD of hers, or yes, a CD, a talk titled 3 Levels of Power and How to Use Them. And this is where I came up with my description of our evolution as the movement from our tribal mind to our egoic mind to the spiritual mind. And this would also describe our individual journey from the child, tribal, to the adolescent and young adult, ego, to the mature adult, if he or she is on the path, the spiritual mind. So this is a very simple, elegant model to use in the understanding of our development individually and collectively. I would bring in Dr. David Hawkins and his book, particularly a series of books, but particularly Power versus Force, where he describes it in very detailed way, this hierarchy of power, which is also based on truth. Okay, the truth has great power. So the more we align with truth, the more we're aligning with power. He described in his arbitrary 1,000-point hierarchy using his kinesiology way of testing truth or power, sensing that anyway. So he would describe, or we could use his hierarchy from 0 to 1,000 to basically describe the tribal mind that it sort of has a maximum vibration power rating of 200. And this is basically the realm of fear and shame. And so what we can watch in the world today, what's being very evident with the current drama in the world, is that the egoic structures, okay, that are very keen on power, okay, they're using force, okay, to manipulate all of the tribal peoples. And it's part of the plan from this egoic perspective, seeing now the tribal peoples as unnecessary, as just basically taking space on the planet, breathing air, eating food, not making any real contribution, because in the eye of the egoic mind, the highly developed rational thinking mind, technology now can do much better what manual labor used to be necessary. And used to be necessary to have the tribal peoples on the planet, and it is becoming, at least in their estimation, unnecessary. So there's a plan for their elimination, and evolution would basically say, well, this is the way evolution works. The higher level of power would dominate lower levels of power. But the key to Hawkins' guide is that the egoic mind, the rational mind, has a limit at the level of 400. Now, 400 on the scale is each level of 100 is 10 times stronger than the one before. So 300 is 10 times stronger than 200, 400, 10 times stronger than 300. So the egoic mind is 100 times more powerful than the tribal mind. So 100 to 1, pretty easy to dominate. But the scale goes way beyond 400. And so the limitation of the egoic mind, we're seeing that in the world today with tremendous conflict. And there's a resolution to this conflict that's well beyond, in a sense of power, where the egoic mind is stuck. Okay, so Hawkins describes, using terms like, so he has like an emotional equivalence to each level. So I think the emotional equivalence to 500 is like acceptance, which is the beginning of our new earth, okay, that Eckhart Tolle describes. He says the new earth begins at acceptance, moves up in this gradient of power into gratitude, and at a very high level, enthusiasm. Okay, and remember, these levels also are aligned with increasing levels of truth. Okay, so like acceptance is more true than hate, right? Hate is more true than fear. But gratitude is much more true, much more accurate than acceptance. It's again a way that we're starting to vibrate in alignment with what is real. Okay, to be grateful, to understand basically the essence of the evolutionary thrust, the essence of God's plan, whatever words you want to use to describe it, for us to be aware of it and align with it, be grateful for it, see that, okay, this is our function. Our function is to be this conduit through which this immense power, infinite power, remember, this is, MC squared, speed of light squared. Our mass, our person, our body and our person is able to be used as a device, as a tool through which power flows into the world, okay? So when we are really aligned with truth, with this spiritual magnificence, with this energetic, creative thrust, okay, we are filled with enthusiasm. This vibrates at the level of 800. 800 is, again, 100 times higher than gratitude, which is 100 times higher than the limits of the rational egoic mind, okay, this is why power versus force. Power is so much greater than force, because force has a limit of 400. Okay, you can force people only when you can control them, when you can limit them, when you can keep them small. Basically, you're wielding power over them, but it's really force, okay? So think about being a child, and it doesn't feel like you have any power as a child. You've abdicated your power to your parents, to the teachers, to the principal, to the police, to the whomever. All these adults have more power than you, only because they're seemingly like smarter. They have more access to these egoic tools of manipulation, control. Okay, similarly, in the world today, the tribal peoples, which are children, and the lower level of the egoic consciousness population, which are able to be manipulated and controlled. Okay, but there's many of us on the planet who cannot be. Okay, because we have access. Remember, we don't have the power, but we have access to the power. We are transmitters of this power. Remember Tesla, remember Einstein, remember this relationship that we have with this infinite power. Okay, so like Jesus said himself, of myself I am nothing. The Father, he doeth the works. Jesus was aware of this power that he had access to that could be used for healing, for teaching, for blessing, what have you. Again, he stood out in his time because he was surrounded totally by tribal idiots, unevolved human beings. They were children. So the point of this investigation of power is to come into a state of knowing where we can have trust, confidence that the outcome of this seeming battle, okay, this evolutionary battle, this battle for control, for dominance, whatever, all of the structures, all of the controls being used will fail. They have to fail. It's the law of evolution. It's the law of power. That what will emerge after the dust settles is what I'm talking about, this new earth, where we no longer abdicate this authority to other humans. We come to see our life as emanating directly from source, in harmony with all of nature, which of course is in harmony with source, and a new earth, this kingdom of heaven, will fully flower. So this is what I'm talking about in this period, this next decade, to do your own investigation, ideally using your energy body, which can detect truth, which will gravitate toward power, away from force and toward true power. Okay, so if we are able to do this, if we're able to align ourselves, if we become one who is on the way, it's a Taoist term, on the way, aligned with natural power, we cannot fail. Now, everyone will accomplish this same rapture, if you will, as they drop their bodies. Okay, we all go through this membrane of light. We all end up radiant in the kingdom. But what we're talking about here is a way to do this without dropping the body. It's consciously dying to our attachment to these lower levels of power, okay, the conditioning that has been used to manipulate you. Okay, we can consciously die to that and say yes to this invitation to step into a new earth. This new earth exists. It's actually always existed, but few have been aware of it because in the world of space and time, it didn't yet appear real. Okay. So again, this is just in the illusion of time and space. Evolution has brought this reality closer and closer and closer. This is what I talked about in the previous talk about this idea of channeling, about believing that this power is somehow something separate and then interpreting it as existing in other entities, other beings. So again, this is just a matter of our spiritual maturity, realizing there's no other entities, there's no other beings. That was just something that was made up as a story, like Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, to help us with our small mind just understand some story about God or some extant being that wielded this power. What Jesus learned, and what anyone that walks this path of mastery learns, is that we and this power are one. We, via our function using our energy body, we access and wield this power. And I'm saying it will manifest at a very high level as enthusiasm. It will manifest as love, as gratitude, as acceptance, but no negativity, because this power does not acknowledge, okay, negativity. The light cannot see the shadow. Okay, so obviously in this world, we see light, we see shadows, we see the dark, we see the duality. But the light itself, the power itself, cannot witness that. Okay, for example, if you put it in the framework of love, what love sees is the call for love. Okay. What creativity sees is the necessity of creation, something new, right? Necessity is the mother of invention or evolution. Creativity is attracted to open space, an invitation for something new. The key for us, like I've said before, is to eliminate any interference patterns, make within us an open space for this energy to flow, okay? And then using our body and our person as a communication device, we share this power with our world. This is the key. It's beautiful, it's simple. There's no possibility of failure as we align ourselves with truth, okay? Power, light. Think about these words, right? Write them down. It's like these are all the same thing: truth, beauty, power, love, light. Okay, these are all. You could say, there's this power, this energetic power, and like this white light, and then breaks into the 7 fractals, the colors of the rainbow, these just different aspects of the same thing. But the power is singular, okay? It's universal. It's not anything complicated where we could argue or people would have different theories about it. We're way beyond theories. We're talking about a direct experiential knowing. This is what I remember reading before, what almost all of the teachers that I remember these self-realization fellowship started by Paramahansa Yogananda. Their goal was to number one goal of self-realization fellowship, to disseminate among the nations a knowledge of definite scientific technique for attaining direct personal experience of God. To teach that the purpose of life is the evolution through self-effort of man's limited mortal consciousness into God consciousness. To point out the one divine highway to which all religious paths eventually lead. And according to them, this liberates man from his threefold suffering: physical disease, mental disharmony, spiritual ignorance. Okay, if you look at any true teaching that comes from an individual or individuals that had direct relationship with this power, they'll be teaching the same thing, that whatever name you used to call it, and it's better now, I think, in using an energy language, we can avoid any of the limitations of religions or philosophies. That's all mental, okay? And remember, the mental, the rational mind, can't possibly comprehend what I'm talking about. This is why to comprehend, to access what I'm talking about and what I can easily access, it requires the development of our energy body, which goes way beyond the rational mind. We feel, we know in a different way, not with the brain. To feel and to know, okay, to feel joy, to know truth. We're using aspects of our being that go far beyond the limitations of the brain. The brain does not feel. The brain does not know. Okay, the brain is this little computing device that judges, and judgment is highly limited. Okay, judgment is always controversial, but knowing, there's no controversy in knowing. Knowing is knowing, and when we step into true knowing, we have no problems. I mean, we could accept anybody else with their ideas, their theories, and it's okay. It's just their way of, just like children playing. You watch a child play, and you accept. It's fun for me to watch my 5-year-old daughter with her endless, boundless creativity and joy. What a delight. There's no judgment in what she's doing with one painting or another. All she wants to do is do these paintings for Daddy. They're always about the same thing. They're always about love, right? Love. Here's Daddy. Here's Amelie. Love. Always about home. She's always drawing castles. Radiant sun. She'll do Sun King with my halo, my crown. She accepts Daddy as Sun King. She's the princess. It's all beautiful, because we're playing with this energy of love, of knowing, of truth, of beauty, of happiness. I mean, she's a radiantly happy little girl, and she sees Daddy, a radiantly happy old man. We share the same knowing. It's kind of cute because she's an artist. I tell her that artists don't play by the rules. Artists don't have to follow any rules. And it bothers her mother a little bit that I'm teaching her that as an artist, She's supposed to get paint all over her clothes. She's supposed to make a mess. She's supposed to, what I want for her is to enjoy being the whirling dervish of joy that little children naturally are. If you don't interfere, if you don't tell them, ooh, there's something wrong with that. So again, we're called to become these whirling dervishes of joy, of love, of appreciation, of enthusiasm. I know that's normal for me. And I hope that you, anyone who's listening, might consider that to become your new normal. And it's easy for you to do this. It's actually quite simple. Well, I shouldn't say it's easy. It's simple. It's not complicated. We have this whole way, keep teaching this process of conscious dying. You can choose to die to any conditioning that might tell you that something other than joy is what you want. There's nothing other than joy. That's a natural state. If you look at a bird, if you look at a flower, Eckhart Tolle would always say, just observe nature. Nature is naturally joyful. They may say, well, it doesn't look like it's like happy, but joyful is not really happy. It's a much deeper, just awareness of the incredible beauty of living, the incredible opportunity. We're being breathed by this universal joyful principle. It's breathing us. It's informing us. It's guiding us. It wants for us, individually and collectively, the very highest expression of itself, which again is joy. Okay? Truth, beauty, power, love, light. These are elements of the one thing that is available infinitely to you. Totally, imagine your diet every day. This is your diet. Energetically, this is what you're consuming. You're not really consuming it, but you're feeling its flow through you. This is your function. And by just acknowledging that, if you just simply acknowledge, my function is to allow flow to move through me into my life. That's it. There's nothing else to figure out. There's no other more important thing you should be doing. And you can be doing this wherever you are, whatever. It doesn't matter in form what you're doing. It's not the form any longer that counts. It's why. Why you're doing what you're doing. Maybe a little bit the how, but it's really the why. Why do you live? What is your purpose? What is the true meaning of your existence? Once you know that, once you're fully infused with that knowing, then details meaningless. Have an amazing day. I love you so much.